we were onboarding some people for the team. I was helping with the onboarding, and we brought in my boss at the time, who was like a VP. He's like a mentor of mine still. And he came in, and his whole bit was to kind of bring people together and tell us the why behind the why. And he was really just bringing in this storytelling and like painting this picture for these people that were just joining the team to understand not just like what the job is, but more of how we got here and why it's important and why the people that created the company loved it so much and the impact it was having. And for me, it was witnessing that in a way where I was like, wow, this is powerful. Like it's storytelling, but it is bringing people into the fold.
When was the last time you truly connected with someone without having your phone in your hand? Whether that be virtual or in person, it's a question a lot of people struggle to answer. My guest this week is Talia Rosenblum. She is the founder of Third Space Experiences, which designs and facilitates device-free connection experiences for teams, organizations, and communities. So we're very on topic to answer that question today. That's what she's here to talk about. And having spent more than a decade leading teams in the tech industry and the tech space, Talia did keep noticing that same thing, that same phenomenon that I'm sure many of us will identify with. I know I do as well. The teams that truly knew each other, who could have those conversations without the phone in the hand, the meeting without any devices in the room, were able to work better together. And the ones that couldn't do this struggled in ways that no real process or consultation was going to fix. So now Talia designs those conversations and the frameworks for them to help people skip the distracted small talk, the empty conversation, and actually truly connect without getting distracted by the phone in their hand or the slides on the screen or whatever else it may be. So she's here today to talk about why we sometimes feel so disconnected, what we can do about it. We're going to talk about community building, the power of connection. We'll touch on AI, customer support, team dynamics, workplace culture, all of these things which tie into that common theme of the conversation. And of course, it's super relevant for leaders in the modern workplace as well, given how many distractions there always are in those workplaces. So I'm looking forward to this one. I hope you are too. Do stick around to the end to hear details of the work Talia does in terms of her website, how to get hold of her, whether you'd like to book her company to support you or facilitate something. And of course, if you are one of those struggling leaders and you're working in a tech field very similar to the one that Talia spent her early career in, and you would like some leadership support, then of course you can come and visit my website or reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. Always happy to talk leadership and see how I can support or assist. I'm also going to do something at the end that I haven't done for quite a while now, and that is read out a recent listener review. So if it was you, thank you very much. And you just have to wait to the end to find out if it is indeed your review that I'm going to read. So hopefully that builds a little bit of suspense for you. I'm not going to give you a spoiler immediately. You're just going to have to listen and find out. Yeah. Anyway, let's get Talia on the show.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Talia, welcome to Leading with Integrity. It's wonderful to have you on the show today and lovely to meet you.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here as well. Thanks for having me, David.
So over to you for a little bit. Tell us your story so far, what you do, why you do it, how you ended up doing it, etc.
Yeah. Well, I'll go into kind of what I was doing before first, because it kind of leads into it nicely, or a little bit, I would say. So I primarily come from tech. I worked in hospitality tech for over a decade and was customer support leadership, focusing on kind of that side of the business. And had teams of, 50 people. I had teams who were remote before remote was a thing, before COVID. And that's kind of how I grew up in leadership. And then in 2025, I was part of a layoff, unsurprising, as we all know kind of what's been going on with tech. And, everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer. So over the past year, I kind of took a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be impactful in this kind of stage of my career and life and all of that stuff. And I really came to a point where I was like, I want to do something a little different, probably the opposite of tech, quite frankly. So I really wanted to focus on connection, bringing people together, and actually device-free spaces. So very anti-tech in a way. And so I have community events that I do. So I get people together off their phones, have great conversations, create the prompts, all of those things. And then I also do private facilitation through the company that I'm the founder of, Third Space Experiences. So that can be leadership teams, it can be conferences, it can be any groups of people that really get together regularly, but want to be getting to know each other and be present with each other a little bit more beyond, roles, job titles, tasks, small talk, and whatnot. So I create those experiences now is kind of my background and where I am and what led me here. So little swerving as my career takes me different directions.
Well, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, what I have to ask, like hospitality tech doesn't sound like two things that go together. So can you tell us a bit more about what that was, how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So right out of college, I actually started working in hotels. At that point, my vision and thought was that I was going to be a general manager one day, and kind of was working, and was like, I don't know, is actually like managing a whole hotel what I want to be doing in my future? And I had fallen in love with some of the technology that we were using, some of the software. So I worked primarily in housekeeping. And, when you need another towel, or if you're at a nice hotel and you want to ask for your room to be cleaned at a specific time, the technology that we utilized was basically like helping to make that happen. So whoever you were talking to wasn't the person bringing the towel, wasn't the person that was coming to clean the room, but how do you get that information out? So it was very interesting. And what was nice was it was putting together the hospitality side that I loved and still working with hotels and operations and all of that. And, I started out when I moved to that organization, I was a consultant. So I was traveling the world and training and staying at very lovely hotels. Definitely spoiled me a little bit when I had to pay for hotels after that. I'm not going to lie. But, I survived, and that was the first few years. And then I kind of loved the travel, but got a little bit worn out by it. And I remember going to my boss at the time and being like, I need 2 weeks in-house. And he was like, is everything okay? I was like, I just need to not be at an airport on a Friday or a Monday morning. Like, I need to fully be here. I had moved to Miami for the job as well. And so I was like, is this home? Is this just where I do laundry? What's happening here? And naturally just moved into customer support leadership at that point, and kind of just kept on going.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I suppose, the industry as a whole didn't have a great time in COVID, but I guess doing the tech side of it probably was quite a good time to be doing it. They would have been looking for ways to reduce contact, I suppose.
Yes and no. I'll be honest, That was COVID. Luckily, by the time COVID was there, the startup I had started with was acquired. And so it was a very large company that we worked for. But, there were layoffs, there were all the things and kind of changing around. And I think we were very lucky because it was a large organization, and a lot of the hotels and hospitality, people were just furloughed, which is basically they didn't have a job. It was like, yeah, we'll call you back when we can call you back, which isn't sustainable at all, obviously. So I was very lucky to have that extra, year and a half where we were kind of figuring things out and doing things. And unfortunately, was laid off, but at the same time, like, I think once you have an understanding of like what's going on, it's easier to understand and not take it too personally. So by the time my second one came around, I was like, well, it's not like I haven't done my job. So just rather than be upset about it, how do I move forward?
I think that's really the only sensible way of looking at it, isn't it? No point hyperfixating on it or anything, is there? It's outside of your control. So
Totally.
Move on, make the best of it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the more recent one then might have to do with those two dreaded letters that personally I'm getting a bit sick of hearing in every single context you can imagine.
Yeah.
You have mixed feelings at best, I would imagine? Or...
Oh, for sure. So I will say, and that wasn't like directly, like there were other things happening in the background, but yeah, AI had been kind of the topic of conversation. It was a tech company, and for the year before the layoff, it was like, how do we get this in the product? What are we doing? Like all of these things. And it was, I think what has been so interesting over the past year is that, in April 2025, when I started looking for jobs again, because I did for a while, I thought I was going to go back and find my next role. And I was really excited about tech, all of that. But I started having this reckoning with AI then, because customer support was really already being impacted, right? Places were already moving away from having humans answering the phone, and they were already focusing on all of the different AI chatbots and all of that. And so I kept seeing, AI forward customer support leadership, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe there's benefits to AI, right? Like no one in the customer support world, no one wants to be answering the phone and helping someone reset their password, right? That's a silly way to have to use your time. But I do think that the people forward aspect is really important. And I think that a lot of people on the customer side want to be able to talk to a human and have a conversation, whether that's messaging them or whatever it might be. So what's been interesting is the whole people are now saying, all of the coders are going to lose their job. Like what's happening to all the white collar jobs? And trust me, I have all those thoughts, but it was something I was already processing for over a year before kind of what's been happening the last few months. So very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm biased, or because I can't admit it because of what I do. Like people obviously are always going to be very much central to the work that I do. And maybe I'm biased by a few bad experiences as a customer as well. But it feels to me like the customer facing bit is the last place you should ever want to put AI. That's got to be about people and connections. Now, your example about changing your password, totally with you on that. But we've been able to do that for decades without involving AI. There's just a link on the sign-in page, isn't there? It's easy.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't know.
I totally agree. And I think it's so easy to undermine the value of customer support, which I think has always been a challenge, right? In the industry, in tech, and, basically every organization has some form of customer support. I think the value of it has always been a little bit downplayed. And obviously I might have a specific opinion about it because it's like my little baby and where I grew up, but there's so much value you get from having conversations with customers, understanding how they're using the product, being able to help them and understand their problem. And I think the idea of thinking that all of a sudden the machine can do all of those things and translate it on in the organization, I just can't see that as possible. And it makes me kind of think about what are these organizations expecting? Like, is this not a human experience we want anymore? Is that not integral to what we are trying to accomplish here? And these are a lot of things that are really fascinating to think about. I don't have the answers.
No, I don't think anyone does, do they? I mean, especially in an industry like hospitality, I mean, surely the whole point of that, especially like the luxury brands, it's all about the experience, isn't it? You would have thought. But yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, you make a great point as well, just generally about the customer support and getting the customer input. I would love to know how many of these companies who are rushing headlong to put AI into their system, their service, their product. And I promise this is the last time I'll complain about it this week.
No, it's all good.
I would love to know, like, on what basis they're doing that. Like, how many of them have real customer data where more than one, preferably customer, has said, yes, actually, I would love to have AI in this loop because the increased potential for annoying mistakes and inability to talk to a human is exactly what I want from your service.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, and what is this giving me? Like, is this actually helping, or are we just so obsessed with the word right now, those 2 letters, that everyone's got to have their little piece of the pie? It's really bizarre to me. Just, and like you said, the kind of the forward movement so quickly. And, I think there's a lot of ethical conversations that really need to happen.
Absolutely.
And I don't know who's responsible for that, but I'm pretty sure it's not the companies that are creating it, because, what they care about is different than what we care about.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely unregulated, isn't it? I mean, there's people you read stories, people are putting in like their health data, their customer data, their accounts, their finances, like customer data, all of it just being put in without a care in the world about data security or what those AI companies are then allowed to do with it, just based on the fact you put it in there, so it's your fault. Like, it's insane to me.
And there's no parameters, right? Like, any Joe Schmo could be like, oh, what? And then it's like, okay, now you have all of this information, and it's bizarre. And I try not to worry too much about it all, but I mean, we can't stick our head in the sand, right? Like, it's affecting us every single day.
This is true. I mean, the cynic in me, I don't know how cynical or realistic this really is, but it's about the money, isn't it? Like, it's obviously getting a lot of hype right now. It's attracting investment all over the place, particularly on your side of the ocean.
I know.
So that's why people are doing it, because it makes them more investable.
Yeah, it makes it more investable, and then the idea is that then, the costs are lower for companies and people, and they don't need overhead of customer support agents or whatever it might be. And, I often, not to go down a total rabbit hole, I'm like, but what is our economy going to look like when there's no jobs? Like, this is so scary to think of.
Yeah. Who's buying these products and services when nobody has a job to pay for it? Like,
Exactly. And it's like, is it just all the big, all the companies, or just no one's serving actual people? I don't know. My brain is sometimes I think just too small to actually count all the pieces.
I don't think the people rolling these things out are thinking about that at all.
No.
Because, I don't think it's a very short-term view, it feels like to me. Anyway.
Yes.
I agree, though. I mean, it definitely has uses. I just don't think its uses are literally everything anyone can think of, which is the way it seems to be going right now.
Totally. Yeah. I like using my brain. I don't know. I like thinking.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing for a human to be able to do. Yeah, definitely. We shouldn't be just subcontracting that out to a machine.
Exactly.
I mean, sci-fi has many lessons for us on that one. We should listen to
Precisely. We should, Sci-fi becomes reality at some point, and that's really scary.
Yeah. We're sort of getting
our reality
there,
becomes sci-fi. I don't know which direction it goes.
I think I occasionally talk about that Star Trek episode where they have the virtual war and then they all just report to the killing booths. After a computer is, I can't remember the name of it, Taste of Armageddon, something like that. It was one of the original series ones in the 60s. Well, and basically a computer has just decided based on a map and a randomization who has been killed in the war. And then I saw I don't know how true it is, but I saw something the other week about a certain defense department in a certain country using a certain AI to filter intelligence and select targets for a certain place. And you're like, that's not that far different, is it?
No.
We're nearly there.
Oh, yes. And it's like mind boggling. I'm constantly like, what? Really?
Yeah.
This isn't a movie? Nope, I'm awake. This isn't a nightmare.
Really happened. Great. Well, or did it really happen? I don't know. It's very difficult to verify these things, isn't it? But
and what is the truth these days? I have no idea, unfortunately.
I think the worrying thing about it is, true or not, it could happen now. Like, you could do that if you wanted to with AI. I need to stop calling it AI as well, because it's not. But yeah. That's the other bit that winds me up about it. Anyway, right, enough doom and gloom. Let's move on to something happier.
Yes, let's do it.
So, yes, the work you do today, building connection. I mean, that, in a great extent, is leadership in my book. So let's talk about a little bit about like the team dynamics, what the differences are in your opinions, your experience between teams that kind of just, and I think we can say the same for like organizational culture as well, things that are just kind of left to grow on their own, like you don't mow the lawn sort of thing, you just see what happens, versus the ones where like there's intentionality behind it, they're building connections deliberately, they're actually thinking about what the culture of the organization looks like, etc. So, I mean, what are the differences you've seen between those two approaches, and why does that difference matter?
Yeah, so I think that the method most companies have been using is kind of get people in, we have orientation, they get to know people, and now do the work, right? And there's this, Gallup asked the question, do you have a best friend at work? And we've known the importance of this, but we've kind of just let it happen. And in my experience, what I've witnessed is that's when you create silos. That's when, you have the two best friends that are kind of like doing their own thing and not really integrating with the whole team. And so there's just, people become friendly and some people become close friends, but it doesn't mean the whole team has cohesion, right? And so you create kind of these little bubbles, and that doesn't actually give you all of the impacts of a well-connected team. So when I think of a well-connected team, it's like teams that know each other beyond their job titles and their tasks. They can have a conversation that's not just about small talk, and they can ask someone about the trip they took the other weekend and, how the zoo was when they went to San Diego, and have this conversation that is just about all the things we do in our life. And oftentimes what can happen is then you get to understand the person, and you do get to know them in the work context better. And so if I know everyone in a context better, there's more psychological safety. You understand each other. You feel free to share whatever it might be. And in a way, it brings out the diversity of the group, is how I like to think about it. Because, the silos that happen, we tend to be attracted to the people who are like ourselves. So my best friend is very similar to me at work, and we think similarly, and we have the same ideas, and we kind of like feed off of each other at times. But the value in a diverse team and diverse thinking is really something powerful for a team. So I think that's what really makes the difference, is like when you can intentionally get people together beyond their little bubbles and their cliques, or however we want to describe them, knowing that we're trying to do something bigger, and that, the 8+ hours we spend together a day, we can enjoy each other. And even if everyone's not friends, they can understand each other better so that you can work well. And I always like to think about it how we have all had people who just know how to press our buttons. I tend to think that these folks that you work with that press your buttons, half of the problem is they're too similar to yourself. That has been my experience in the past. It's not always that, but for me, that's what it's been. And I have found that even if they press my buttons and drive me crazy, if I spend time getting to know them, I understand why they think differently than me, or why they're so, why this deadline matters so much and why these things happen. And it makes it so that I can work better with them. They can understand me in the same way of why maybe that deadline doesn't seem important. We can have conversations. So there's just so much value in like that diversity coming together, but it doesn't happen on its own. On its own, it's just like little pockets of like, we started on the same day. We sit next to each other, right? So that's what I think is the big difference is with the intentionality is it goes beyond just what happens to happen.
Yeah, I think it is an important difference. Just to put that out there, definitely agree with you. What I find really fascinating in these kind of dynamics, and I've seen it a few times in places where I've worked and some unnamed clients as well. I've also always kind of wondered with it. So you mentioned about like the cliques and the best friends at work and things.
Mm-hmm.
Once that culture has already established and you've got those silos, I've seen it where that's been done intentionally as well, because the top management, let's call them, had the view that the best innovations would happen when all those silos were competing and kept at each other's throats all the time. Horrible culture to work in, and definitely didn't achieve the results that they thought it was achieving either. But anyway,
totally.
So I guess the question is like, once those things are already really well bedded in, like how do you break people out of those? I mean, it's a cycle, isn't it? At a certain point, it becomes self-fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that it has to be a change from the top down, right? Everyone needs to be invested in creating, and you're right, it is basically a better culture and a more connected culture, not just the team. And it really requires time. It's not like, let's get together and have a team building experience for, an hour. That's just simply not enough. And so you can have those larger experiences. That's like an hour, you get everyone together. But what are the individual leaders doing every single day to model the behavior? How are they encouraging people to have conversations and hang out when they're getting coffee and talk about things that may or may not be related to work? And in a way, kind of like what you were saying, we're so obsessed right now with being productive. Like, what are you getting done? What are you getting done? And I always like to think about it as the connection aspect helps you be more productive, even if you feel as though it's taking you away from work. Because what it's doing is it's actually making the team stronger and closer. All of the individuals are coming together rather than working all in their little silos alone and collaborating. So I think it's an ongoing effort, just like any culture. You can't paste up some words and say, this is our culture and these are our values and this is what we do. But if it doesn't match the living reality and experience of people, then it's just propaganda, right?
Oh, great use of that word. Yeah, it definitely, like, it comes off as false and fake, doesn't it? Particularly like the let's go away and have fun for an hour and then come back. That whole, like, the enforced fun, our HR manager used to call it. She won't mind me saying that. There is that kind of, it's the sort of the sticking plaster approach, isn't it? Rather than actually trying to get to the root causes of the problem. And I think, and this may be a wild oversimplification, and I'm sure you have much better ways of explaining it than I do, but I've always found it's about that common ground. So when it's like cohorts of people who join at the same time, they've got that common ground. Like, we started on the same day or the same week. We went through onboarding, orientation, etc. together. We sit next to each other. We have lunch together. And so you gel really well, because that's just naturally how that's going to happen. Where I find it really challenging, and I know loads of workplaces have this, is when there's that, you don't have that immediate common ground, that connection. You don't seek understanding because of the silos, because there's sometimes even like a bit of othering going on as well. And then actually trying to get people to that point of seeking that understanding in order to then find that common ground. Like, may turn out they both have the same hobby, even though at work they're always at each other's throats and throw around phrases like, I hate that guy, and all this sort of stuff. But it's getting people over that hump, I suppose, is what I'm saying. And that's it's the real trick, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it is. It is the trick. And it's funny you said the othering, and that reminded me of some experiences I've had, right? Where it's a team is established, you're coming in, and, I've been on teams, or rather it was kind of organizations that were constantly like, oh, do you remember when? And they kind of had this like the good old days. And I know I wasn't alone in sitting there and being like, okay, like I wasn't there or part of it, and now it's just awkward because I just feel like I'm unimportant. I do think that certain people have the ability to easily, kind of inject themselves, right? Like I find myself, I'm like, I will, if I feel like I don't have people to ask questions to, I will find the people. But that takes a certain amount of gumption to be able to do that. And like, I have no fear around that, but I know that there's a lot of people that don't. So you have to make that space for people to be able to find those commonalities. And I think something that's really interesting around the people finding those commonalities is there has to be some kind of naturalness that comes along with it. It can't be like, oh, as a team, we're going to go and do this team building thing, and then we're going to all be doing something that we love. But instead, it's like, how are we having conversations about things, then finding out that we have them in common, rather than saying, let's go do this thing, and now we have something in common. And I think there's a time and place for team building. I'm not discounting that at all. I think that it is a great tool for like an established team that has great rapport. Like, go and have fun, do the things. That is a celebratory. But is that how you get people to get to know each other? Maybe, not sure.
Yeah, I think there's an element of trust to it, isn't there? And I think you can build that initial trust by doing those kinds of activities quite quickly. And then once they've got that, then they're more likely to go on and have those following conversations.
There.
But I think I also, this is why I think the having the social aspect around your workplace is quite important. And anyone who's ever worked with me in a past job is going to be amazed to hear me say that, because I was always the one resisting going to those things. However, it's not a, what's the word? It's not a contradiction, because there was a reason I was resisting them, because it was exactly like that kind of enforced fun, that kind of, we know everyone's unhappy, we're going to throw this free meal at you and hope that will shut you up kind of thing, as opposed to doing it in order to genuinely build connections between people.
Totally.
People can spot that difference really easily, like way easily than bosses think they can. So I think that social aspect, but also I think what's really important, and again, maybe this is my own biases and experience, maybe it's just because I'm quite informal as a person, is having the sort of workplace where people aren't afraid to just have a bit of fun in the day to day, rather than just be sort of head down typing or whatever all the time and scared of talking or having music on in case the manager comes through and yells at them or something. I think that is really important, especially in this day and age where people have a lot more options about their modes of work, and even whether they're going to work for you or themselves, and all these other things that weren't really around when I was first in the workplace. Don't know about you.
Totally. I think you touched on such a good point, which is, for me, I think it made a big difference in both the work I'm doing now and kind of my leadership trajectory, which was, I had one of those great work experiences, right? Like a great team. We were having fun. We were getting a lot of stuff done. Like it was good. And things change, things happen, acquisitions, whatever it might be. But once you know what's possible with a team that's well connected, that knows how to joke and have fun with each other, also get all of the work done, you realize that it's like, oh, it's actually possible to have these things together. And no, I was not best friends with everyone, and there were still people who drove me crazy. But because we had that extra layer on top of it where it wasn't just work, it made it that much easier. And I think that really shaped how I've tried to lead teams and tried to create that, and, naturally fell into this work of doing it now, not just for my own teams, but different communities, other teams, organizations, and whatnot, because we spend so much time working. Let's invest in having it be a place where people want to be and want to spend their time. And when you have that, the teams perform better, right? Like, I don't have the stats in front of me, but you can find them for sure.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned productivity earlier. I feel like that's another word that's misunderstood, misappropriated maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you take it to its base definition, it's amount of output over time, isn't it? But then if you're measuring that time over a 9-to-5 week versus like actually how long did it take to produce the same output, you probably find that the output of that 9-to-5 week was actually done in about 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
And then there's all the other stuff that we pile on around these workplaces that doesn't really need to be there. So I'm a bit of a skeptic around productivity as well.
Fair. I totally agree. It's a little bit of a buzzword, right? Like AI productivity. I don't know.
It is. And I think, yeah, in certain quarters, it's probably used in the maybe more pejorative sense in terms of, oh, people aren't working hard enough, we're not as productive as you used to be, etc. And what they really mean is, I don't trust you to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
But then in others, I think people are genuinely trying to get to grips with it. And like in the UK, for example, we've had they've been talking about the UK's productivity problem for about a decade now, it feels like, primarily compared to our European cousins. And I don't know what the solution is other than just like a social culture thing about how we view workplaces. And again, it brings me back to, if we focus it on the sort of things you're talking about, like the connection, like finding a way to have fun at work and make it a bit more of a bearable experience for everyone, I kind of thinking that would solve the issue.
Totally.
We're biased, aren't we?
But yeah, we are, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We could bring people over to our side,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Join the light side, everyone. Yeah. I mean, it's like I always say, you can take the work seriously without taking yourself that seriously, and just being able to let loose a little bit and show your fun side at work, even if you are the leader, the manager of 100 people or whatever. Like, nobody's going to lose respect for you. If anything, they might gain a bit.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's the way of the future when it comes to this sort of thing.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay, so another phenomenon, another word that we hear a lot in the world of leadership is loneliness. And this feels very relevant to the work that you do as well. So let's start off with, and we may have hinted at this already, why is it, do you think, that so many people are feeling lonely right now, even when they're like constantly surrounded by others at work or socially or wherever?
Yeah, so I have a lot to say about this. So, but I will start with devices. So almost all of the work I do is also device free. Granted, hard when you're on a computer and whatnot, but I really focus on getting people in person and present with each other. I think that whether we're thinking about work or just, living in this world, our devices are constantly getting in the way of us actually connecting with people. And I say that through understanding that we are more digitally connected than we've ever been, right? Like there's so many ways to digitally connect with people, but it is just simply not the same type of connection, right? We don't have the same things that we're getting out of it. There's a little bit, you can think of like it as a hierarchy. So up at the top, you get all of the social cues when you're in person, right? You can understand body language. You can understand facial expression, tone of voice, all of those pieces. As you slowly move like down the hierarchy, as I like to call it, you have video conferencing. Okay, you're probably not getting my body language, but you're getting some other stuff. And then you get phone, and you're getting tone of voice. And as someone who has led customer support teams, let me tell you that if you are smiling and you say something, it does change your tone. It's a little trick of the trade. So you're already losing so much of the social cues, from that. And then all of a sudden you get to the place where most of our communication happens these days, whether it's at work or in our personal lives, text messaging, Slack messages, emails, and you really have stripped it down to just words, and it's lacking those social cues. And so it's really kind of lacking the connection. And not only is that our most common way of communicating now, it's kind of numbed us a little bit for how do we actually connect and communicate with the people around us. So I think this leads to, even when we're surrounded by people, how do we start the conversation? What are we saying to them? And I think a lot of people don't know the answers to those, so they don't do it. And that gets us, maybe we stay in the small talk lane, which, small talk, it is an important thing for us to be doing, but it's not necessarily creating connection, right? Like over time, it might get you there, but it's more of a social nicety than an actual, like, I'm now having a conversation with this person. So I think the digital connection aspect of it simply has just made it so that we're not as great at doing it anymore. We're a little afraid of just talking to the people around us. We don't want to, look weird or say something silly or whatever it might be, when, like, for me, that's like the joy of it. Like, I don't know. There's times I talk to people and I'm like, what just came out of my mouth? I don't know. I'm sorry. Like that word wasn't what I meant to say. And for me, I love that aspect because it creates a little piece of connection. But I think that's like the primary thing. We've gotten so used to just not doing it in person that we don't know how to do it anymore. So we don't.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. So I'm very much an online first person, right? Like for me, so I'm a business of one anyway. I don't have a team that I need to engage with. Maybe it would be different if I did still have that. But I think where I probably fall on this is it's got to be what suits the individuals best. So if I was leading a team right now, and I haven't since before COVID, so I'm not really well placed to talk about this with any real authority, but I think for me, I would go the hybrid route, because I think a lot of people benefit from that flexibility of being able to just work from home without having to explain themselves or call in sick and get persuaded to work anyway, and all that horrible toxic sort of stuff that used to happen before COVID. Probably still does in a lot of workplaces. But I also do see the value of, even if it's only for that social aspect that we talked about earlier, in actually meeting up and looking people in the eye, as the old saying goes, and shaking their hands and all these other old man cliches that I'm kind of depressed just came out of my mouth. But you see where I'm coming from. But then I also think, like, as the world and technology has moved on, I wonder if face-to-face has taken on new meaning. So I think what we're doing now counts as face-to-face. Like, we can see each other enough that we can pick up on most of the body language, I think. We can get the voice, obviously. Now, the internet plays up every now and then, so you might lose a bit of timeliness. But I don't know. I think it's close enough for the majority of stuff. It's just about how deep you want that connection to be, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then I also think there are many people in the world who absolutely detest that in-person thing. The introverts of the world, the lazy among us, pointing at myself. The people who don't have to travel to towns and things, like.
I mean, I hear and I do agree with everything, right? I think that what we need to do is figure out how to work in the environments we're working with and what works best for us. And, working remote, I think, you can still create connection, right? Like, yes, is face-to-face important? That's why like a lot of companies that are fully remote, they'll have, a quarterly or an annual get together where just it's about that face-to-face, creating that rapport that goes beyond. So hybrid, remote, in person, you got to create the connection somehow there. And I certainly think you can easily do it. And yes, I say in person is up at the top. That's mainly just because it is such a great tool to get people together, but it's not the only way, right? Like, I mean, doing this, as you said, is like, okay, so I'm not getting, so what they call is like, we have olfactory senses. So there's no pheromones, there's no nothing. Like, that's what I'm missing right now. Maybe you can't see that I don't sit still very well. Maybe you can see that. I don't know. Try not to fidget too much. But those are things that it's like, you're right. We're very close to still being in person, even though we're not. I think what scares me is the potentialness of never doing in person. That sometimes it feels like we're moving towards, right? The ability to not have to do that, so we don't do it, and we just become even more socially awkward than we all are, right? Like it's very interesting with like the younger generation and the Gen Z, and they're very different than us millennials, and we are very different than the boomers. Like, it's fascinating. But it's important that we know how to socialize with each other in person, and that we don't mind if we're a little awkward or a little bit weird. Like, isn't that the charmingness of being human? Like, we're not all, most of what we see on social media isn't reality anyways. So let's get out there and I don't know, connect in person. So I totally understand and agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's that individual needs piece for me, which I think as well is a really important aspect of leadership if you're getting it right. Mm-hmm. This whole the one size fits all approach, I don't think I don't agree with that in any context. Like, I understand why companies, especially large companies, do it, because they don't want to invest the time, the energy, and quite often the money in catering to everyone's individual preferences and needs. But then I've spent my whole career in small businesses, so it's never really been a concern for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I totally know.
I do think, though, leadership, when it's done well, is personal, it's individual, it's contextual. And that means building connections. And yeah, if you can do it face to face, it's usually probably quicker. But that might not work for everyone you're leading. So you've got to be open to that conversation. And yeah, whichever way you go, whether you're trying to force everyone back into the office or you're trying to make everyone go full remote, even though half of them don't want to, either route there, like, or trying to enforce hybrid when nobody wants that either, or they don't want that amount of days, they want this, and so on and so on. But trying to pick a one size and then forcing it to fit everyone, all you really achieve is make everyone unhappy instead of just, make it fit the person. Mm-hmm. I'm wildly oversimplifying, I know, and I know it's a lot more complicated than that. But
yes, but like I totally agree. And I do think that's a huge part of leadership, which is it was an interesting, when you go from being like an individual contributor to a leader, you realize that it's not about the tasks that you were doing and trying to make a mini clone of you. It's about, okay, how do these people now work, and how do I help them be successful at the job, even if it's not necessarily doing it exactly how I did it. And so there's so much individuality that has to be taken in leadership, and you have to know the people to be able to do that.
Mini clone, that's just triggered a memory in me from 20 odd years ago. Someone I wasn't even in a work setting, it was a volunteer setting, but somebody described me as a clone version of the person that I reported to. And at the time, I took that as a massive compliment. Like, I was proud of it. But in hindsight, I'm pretty sure that was an insult. They were saying I wasn't an individual and didn't have my own personality.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could.
Well,
it didn't have to be that specifically. It could have been like, you're just so. Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, they probably didn't mean it as an insult, but I think it probably was, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you know.
Yeah. I mean, there is a leadership point there as well. Like, a big part of leadership is legacy, isn't it? And there's that saying about great leaders are the ones who create other leaders. But other leaders, I think we should add, that are their own individuals, and they're not just copying and pasting everything you've done and they've seen you do. Have their own identity, their own personality.
Totally.
Okay, next question then. We're doing well. We're nearly an hour and we've done like 2 questions.
Oh gosh.
I think this is going really
tracking.
well. Yeah.
Sorry, I can be a bit verbose. I like
No, it's fine. I can as well. Yeah. This is definitely a long form podcast. It's okay. We can skip over questions to account for our tangents. So I think you've mentioned third space already. What is a third space and why are they disappearing? Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't know that maybe mainland Europe has done a bit better than we have in the UK. I think we're very similar. Like, I remember growing up, there was like a community centre in the local village. People could meet up. There was like half a dozen pubs. Now, to be fair, COVID was what did for a lot of the pubs here, and then compounded by rising energy costs and cost of supply and all that other stuff. And yeah, they're definitely on the down at the moment. But yeah, I mean, community centres don't really.
We have some, but they tend to be around like more recreation, like rec centers. Like the basketball court is there, and it's not necessarily like a place you're going because you just want to hang out, right? Yeah.
I mean, even things like that. So, and even if it's something to go and play sport or whatever, like there's still a cost attached to that now. Like there aren't any sort of run for the community good kind of thing, or not many anyway. It's certainly not the norm here. And then, I mean, going back to the pub again, there's still a contract implied there. You need to buy some drinks. Like it used to be when I first started going to them when I came of age, obviously, and not before. You could just buy one drink and sit there all afternoon and they'd be happy to have you.
Yeah.
Whereas now, you sit there more than an hour or half an hour in some pubs. They'll be sort of looking at their watch and tutting in your general direction.
Are you getting another drink? What are you doing here?
Did you want? Yeah. Oh, there's the door then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all of them, to be fair.
Yeah.
But,
So I should probably change my, find some better examples or quote like pubs of the past. Cause like it has changed everywhere, right? Like we're all being affected by some of these things, maybe in different ways, but you know, the developed countries, we kind of look at each other and we're like, oh, I'm going to copy what they're doing over there and what they're doing over there. And everyone's kind of doing similar things, even when maybe we shouldn't be.
Yeah. It does feel like there's been some pretty major social shifts over the last couple of decades that we've just not really given voice to or noticed necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think the car thing obviously was a big impact. I think the mobile phone, obviously, I agree with you there. That's also had an impact on more than just this as well. It's I guess it's the grand irony of the internet, isn't it? Like at the same time, you are connected to literally the whole world and nobody. That sounds more deep and meaningful than it is, doesn't it? But
yeah, no, but it's like spot on, right? Like you can be connected to literally anyone in the world. That's amazing. But you're also just not really connecting with anyone. And especially like you layer on something like social media and it's like, you're seeing the version of their life that they're choosing to show you. That's not actually even authentic half the time. I mean, maybe that's judgy of me. I don't really know. I'm making assumptions, but
that's assuming as well on social these days that it even is a person managing that account as well.
Totally.
Like.
Totally. That it's not just like AI generated 100%. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Scary.
What is
we
this?
said we weren't going to complain about AI anymore. I'm going to.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. So for any leaders in the audience then, who are looking for ways to encourage more meaningful connections and conversations among their team, what are some things they could do today or tomorrow if they're a bit lazy, like me?
Maybe they just need to do some planning. It doesn't mean lazy, just figuring out the pieces.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is leading by example. And that means connecting with your team, with your peers, with whomever. And it might look different based off of, right, if you're in person, hybrid, remote, but there's ways to easily do it. My favorite kind of question prompt, it's super simple. Like the prompts I come up with for my actual experiences, there's a lot more to them. They have like digging deeper questions and whatnot. But one that is so easy is just asking someone, what's something that you're curious about right now? And you can say like, at work, not at work, it doesn't really matter. And see where someone goes with it. Because it tends to be a question that's just like, oh yeah, I've been reading this book and I have this thing going on. And like, I am sitting here pondering the world because of blah, blah, blah. And it can lead to this like very fascinating conversation. But it also is general enough that it's like people can take it as far as they want to. So it can just be like, yeah, I'm sitting here trying to decide which coffee I want to make myself. And I'm curious of which of these is better or which has more caffeine or, something like that, which also prompts a conversation. So I think that welcoming that in and putting the energy and the effort into actually having those conversations is the first step. When you think in person, that's pop by someone's desk, and don't talk to them about work. Talk to them about something else. Start that conversation and make that a norm that, you're not coming over just because you want to know how that paper is going for the deadline, right? That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for actually like, how's everything going? What's something fun you did this weekend? And, how are the kids or whatever it might be? Hybrid, it's doing the same, but it's really prioritizing that when you're in person and knowing that the time that you spend in the office, an important aspect of that is the connection and is getting the people together, and helping the team know that simply working remotely from your desk in the office isn't the purpose of hybrid work, right? Like if you're just going to do the same exact thing that you do at home, that isn't the purpose. And then with remote, it's about making time. One thing that I did for my team when we were fully remote was every week I had I think it was a 30-minute meeting, and I invited the whole team. It was totally optional. They knew this. And I was like, we don't talk about work. It's just time to like hang out and chat. And, some people were regulars. Some people, I think everyone came at least a few times, but it's like, someone would tell us what was going on with their life. And the next week we'd follow up with that and we'd have a conversation. And, I think it's just about being very intentional about it and knowing like, I've got to help make this happen. So there's a few options for you depending on if you work remote, hybrid, or in person. So multiple ways to do it, and a good question for the leaders that are listening.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was immediately trying to think of something I'm curious about right now, but I think we've already been talking about it. So that's good.
Yes.
We've ticked the box.
I know that. That's how I feel. Like sometimes I'm like, guys, have I gone down a rabbit hole? I'm sorry. I just, we start talking about things and I'm like, well, there's this super interesting, and sometimes people are like, what are we talking about? I'm like, our brains do mysterious things, and AI can keep us very busy these days.
Definitely. Well, time's been flying. I'm going to have to skip a few questions, I think. Otherwise, we will be here for the rest of the day quite easily.
All good.
Which I would love, but it would make editing a bit of a nightmare, if I'm honest.
I can understand that. Yeah. It is later for you,
Yeah, this is true as well, yes.
Yeah.
Not that late, but it's still, yeah. So, some more general leadership questions then. I've got, I think I'm going to skip to the two really interesting and slightly fun ones. What is your best memory of being led?
It's interesting with this one. It's like, it was a little bit of like a gut memory reminder, whatever it might be. But it's actually very simple, which is interesting. So I remember we were onboarding some people for the team. I was helping with the onboarding, and we brought in my boss at the time, who was like a VP. He's like a mentor of mine still. And he came in, and his whole bit was to kind of bring people together and tell us the why behind the why. And he was really just bringing in this storytelling and like painting this picture for these people that were just joining the team to understand not just like what the job is, but more of how we got here and why it's important and why the people that created the company loved it so much and the impact it was having. And for me, it was witnessing that in a way where I was like, wow, this is powerful. Like it's storytelling, but it is bringing people into the fold. So I don't know if that's really like I was being led, but that is like the memory that comes to mind, was just this like really powerful, simple situation where I was like, oh, this is like someone who could be like well-spoken and passionate and like telling a story, but also motivating these people that have no idea. Like they just started today and they don't know what's happening, but it's like convincing them. And so he wasn't a sales guy, So it's like, that was just, it was kind of amazing to me, and it really impacted me. So he was leading me. Yeah.
Definitely was. I really like that phrase, the why behind the why, as well. So I think that is a often overlooked aspect of leadership, is actually giving people the context and the understanding of why what they do actually matters. And so many leaders overlook this. Managers do it all the time. Just like, oh, they don't need to know. They just need to know what they need to produce and when by, and that's all I have to tell them. And anything else isn't my job. So wrong. It's
so wrong. Because it's so funny, because you think of like that manager that has that perspective. You can bet that's not how they were feeling when they were in that position. They wanted to understand and know more and like get all of that. And so it is the difference between managing and leading, right? Yeah.
No, you're right. But I'd also bet that is exactly the behavior they received from their management. And that's why it's being replicated. But
totally.
Yeah, we talked about productivity earlier, didn't we? And people being happy at work and feeling engaged, all of these things. If you want them to be more productive and happier and engaged with their work, tell them why what they're doing matters. That's the quickest and easiest way of achieving it.
It really, and it seems so simple. And I think sometimes that's what was lovely about like working in the customer support organization, which was we were literally talking to the customers every single day and understanding how they were using the product, what they were doing, the problems they were having. And so it was lovely to have like a naturally very engaged group of people. But what always got more complicated was, the difficult things that were happening. COVID, for example, leading through that and the uncertainty that goes with it. And still communicating and understanding the why behind decisions is important. The kind of, the blind eye of like, they don't need to know that. It's like, but why not? Like, what are we worried about right now? And what's the concern about bringing people along? Because I know me, I'd rather hear bad news or understand the difficulties a little bit more than like feel blindsided, right? Like, we could probably go on a tangent against like toxic positivity easily.
100%, and definitely with you have absolutely experienced that as well. I think you're right. It's what it comes down to me, I guess, is like, if you don't want to give them the context, then what you're telling them either explicitly or through very heavy implication, is you don't want them to care about the work they're doing or the company they work for, or really you as a leader. And if you think about it like that, I don't think... Yeah. But if you think about it in those terms, I don't think any manager or leader, whatever their other beliefs, is going to make that choice. It's only because they're not thinking about it through the eyes of the people they're leading.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm in danger of going off on a rant. So,
I mean, I don't mind, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the listeners are probably sick of my rants by now. Maybe not if they're still here. Who knows? Okay, I'm going to do one more question. This one is my current favourite question. It is leadership heroes.
Leadership heroes.
If you had to pick one person, but it can be literally anyone you could think of, they could be alive or dead, past or present, real or fictitious, but someone who, in your opinion, perfectly embodies leadership, which person would that be and why?
So I think, and I don't want to get like too political or anything, but it's hard not to with my answer. So I would say Barack Obama. One, it does impact me that I've kind of lived through his leadership. But there's something well-spoken. There's something intentional. And on top of that, everything he kind of portrays is also very relatable, which I appreciate. It doesn't feel like I am here, you are here, he's no longer, but he was the president, right? And I'm just a citizen, that can happen. Okay. But listening to his speeches and what he had to say, and I just felt like it was very much like equal playing field. He just was using his voice because he had it, but that he understood, the American people. And I think another piece that makes him relatable, now he puts out like his favorite books of, I think it's usually the season, maybe it's just years now, and like songs he's listening to. And like, I read a lot, I listen to a lot of music, and I'm always like, oh my God, this is like kind of amazing. Like I read the same book as Barack Obama. Like that just is like, we're just two humans existing, and it just makes it so relatable. So I think you had said something earlier about not being super formal, and I feel the same way, right? Like I want to relate to people, and I want people to relate to me, and that's an important part. And I mean, I'm sure if I actually met Barack Obama, I would totally freeze, knowing myself, but I think he would probably make a joke of it or something, like that's I hope. So I just feel like the way he spoke and continues to speak and portray himself, and relate to the people that he was leading, he's my hero, my leadership hero. Yeah.
He's a great choice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what I really liked about his approach is not being afraid to make a joke occasionally, even at his own expense. Really loved that whole approach to leadership is amazing. Yeah, it's hard to think of another world leader, let alone a US president who's been willing to do that. Maybe Reagan, but only in very limited situations.
Right. Right.
We maybe won't mention any of the others, but
yes.
Yeah. The one positive thing of current politics, though, is we see a lot of reels in the feed of comparisons between Obama and certain other presidents. And it's always nice to be reminded of some of his great speeches and his best moments.
Absolutely. I read I actually listened to Promised Land, his book that he wrote. It came out a few years. I totally lost track of time, but it was about like his campaigning and like all of that. And it's yeah, he's the narrator as well. So it's like super lovely. Though I do think I needed to I think I sped it up a little bit. Sometimes he's a little, he's methodical, but sometimes I was like, okay, we can get there a little faster though.
Yeah, he's probably getting paid by the minute, not the word.
I know. So I could listen to him all day. So
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's a great choice. I think he might have been chosen before. Michelle Obama has definitely been chosen before.
Yep, she's great.
But yeah, it does mean you won't get your bonus points, I'm afraid.
It's okay. But maybe I'm just starting a trend. Everyone's going to follow me afterwards. So
yeah,
a trend
very possibly. We did have that trend with Abraham Lincoln a year or so back. Where I think it was like half a dozen people in a row chose him.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, he's great.
I later found out a book had been released about him, and that's probably why. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You're like, well, educating ourselves about it. And now we know. Like, that's
cool
great.
choice.
Yeah. Totally.
Cool choice.
Totally.
Great figure from history.
He definitely did some really great things. So, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Lovely. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for being with us. If anyone in the audience wants to know more about you and the work that you do, where can they go to learn more?
Yes. So there's a few different places. One, I post on Substack. I can give you the links and the information. That'll probably be easier.
Absolutely.
Instagram, love to connect on LinkedIn. Those are kind of where I'm focusing my energy and effort. And obviously I've got my website and all of those things to learn some more. So I would love to see you there. I'm always open to good conversations. So I hope that the leaders have found something great with this listen and have maybe some things to chat about.
I'm sure they will. I certainly have.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Well, Talia, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well. Bye.
Talia, thank you again so much for that conversation. Really loved that. We went off on some fun tangents too, I think. But the common theme throughout, that importance of community building, connection building for society as much as for the leaders in the workplace. So important and really good to hear your perspective on it. And I think it was quite an educational one as well. So we ticked all the boxes, hopefully. Listener, viewer, if you would like to learn more about Talia's work, about Third Spaces, the website is down in the show notes. As always, I do encourage you, click on that, go and learn more things. Thank you so much for being with us, for listening or watching this episode today. I hope you'll be back again next week. And I, as promised, am now going to read out a recent review that the podcast has received because it brought a smile to my face. It's from Jerry M. Brown, who says, "Great business podcast. Love the concept of leading with integrity. Not everything needs to be at the expense of being a person to other people. Great message with great interviews." Thank you so much for that, Jerry, because that really hits the nail on the head of what I'm trying to achieve with this show. And it's always nice to have such lovely feedback as well. Do drop me a message on LinkedIn, Jerry, and I will be happy to offer you a free membership to the Integrity Leaders community as a little thank you for that review. Well, that's all from me. The website is on the screen if you would like to know more about Leading with Integrity, about the podcast, about the community and the other work that I do. Do join me again next week when my guest will be a tech founder who is currently going through that very journey that we talk about so often on this podcast of growing a new team for the first time. His name is Benas. His company is quite interesting as well. He's got some great experience and it's quite a chilled and enjoyable conversation. At least it was from my perspective. So I hope that you will be there with us next week. And in the meantime, as always, remember, be a leader, not a boss. Still that paranoid millennial type who leaves it for like a minute before I start, just to make sure it's definitely working.
Fair. Same here. I mean, that feels like an easy thing to cut out, like editing wise. It's like, beginning. That's easy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all good.